We've talked here before about the idea of how many easy ways there are to get in business for yourself. In fact, a couple of years ago, I went to an event called 30 Days to Fast Cash. And in that particular program, there's a list, and I think I've got it somewhere still, like 195 ways that you could make $1,000 in the next 30 days if you had to come up with $1,000 in the next 30 days. Some of them are very legitimate. Sell stuff that you have that you don't need. Pawn shops are really good for that kind of stuff. Mow other people's lawns, wash other people's cars. Pretty basic, easy. A teenager who's a little industrious could come up with $1,000 in 30 days. Pretty easy kind of stuff. But then there's also some ideas that you look at these ideas and you think, well, just about anybody could do that. And while it looks and feels and acts like a legitimate business, there's no barrier to entry. There's nothing stopping anyone from doing it, whether they're legitimate business people or not. I was just reading, in fact, just before I went live this morning, a long, very long post about someone who had invested their deposit already in a project that was contracted for some $15,000 to do a remodel in a house. And after taking the deposit and doing some work over about 2 weeks, the entire project was supposed to be done in 2 weeks, they basically skipped out. They did terrible quality work in the work that they did get done. They made all kinds of excuses about, you got to prepay for this and prepay for that and prepay for this, and then never did get the work done. And as it turns out, the homeowner now has to do quite a bit of the work themselves and pay someone else to come in and fix what has already been done and hire another contractor to get all the work done. That's a really sad reality. But think for a moment about how easy that scam is to pull off. And then think about all of the homes that are going to be rebuilt with FEMA money, with insurance money, all along the Gulf Coast of the United States. 2 major hurricanes in a couple of weeks' time. Some people still without power, some people still without a home to live in, some who have just given up and said, we're relocating, we're not going back. But some whose homes have had a flood line that is waist deep, and if you can get the sheetrock and the insulation out fast enough and get the concrete dry, you may be able to rebuild the same home without tearing it down. You just have to eradicate the moisture and the mold. Where do you find a dependable contractor to do that kind of work? But see, it's not just in contracting. I got to sit during a wedding that we conducted this weekend with the event coordinators who had been hired by the bride's family to come in and make sure that all of the vendors were in their place, doing what they were supposed to do, that everything that they promised to deliver for the bride and groom was up to the highest level of expectations, etc. And we got on the topic of people who sell themselves as professionals in the industry of weddings, but they're not. Their end results are not good. They show up to MC the wedding and you can't trust them to talk on the microphone either, because there's zero chance you're going to understand anything they say with a microphone in their hand, or because you're horrified at what might come out of their mouth, because they're simply not professional, respectable kind of people. We recently had to let a guy go because we found he was drinking at an event. It's amazing the kind of people who consider themselves great, upstanding business people, and the way they portray their conducting business versus the way that they actually conduct business are two totally different things. It kind of brings me to the point of asking the question whether you're talking about a professional DJ or a landscaper. I know many people have had contracting nightmares with landscapers who have come in and said, we're going to resod this area, we're going to replant these trees, we're going to prune that tree, it's all going to be gorgeous. And you come back and it looks like either they've done absolutely nothing, or what they've done looks like a bunch of 12-year-olds came in and did it and have no understanding of what grass might be, besides the kind you smoke. is it possible to predetermine how good your contractor is going to be, how good your DJ is going to be, how good your landscaper is going to be, how good you're going to do business with the people that you're dealing business with? And it's beginning to even become permeating into other industries. Life coaches pop up on every corner. They've all gotten on to the fact that to be called a life coach is almost like the marketing kiss of death. You know, the marketing kiss of death is when you ask someone, so who is your product for? Who's your book written for? Who's your speech written for? The services that you provide, who are they really for? Do you sell machines that make better drinking water? Do you sell shoelaces? And the marketing kiss of death is when I say, well, it's for everyone. Well, no, it's obviously not for everyone. In fact, it's probably for a smaller niche than you think it is, but not being able to identify that niche means you're not actually going to be able to sell it. So the label life coach that has been slapped on many people, and many people have slapped it on themselves, and I resent it when I get called a life coach because I do so much more than that and offer advice in so many more areas than that. While some may see it as a life coach, there's a lot more to it than that. Besides which, I've paid and done the research and done the study and done my time to be a certified leadership coach with the John Maxwell team. There are a lot of people who slap the shingle life coach on their front door, and they've done none of that. They've lived a rough life and maybe become an overcomer, but that's all they have to offer you. The path that they walked, and that's pretty much it. How are they different then than the landscaper who doesn't know one grass from another, or the contractor who can't rebuild your bathroom in 2 weeks, much less the entire $15,000 project in 2 weeks, or the DJ who doesn't know how to handle a microphone, or embarrasses you by the way he communicates with your audience, or simply won't communicate with them at all. But then there's another level of business. We've all seen the movies where the old gangsters would go into the place of business, usually in the Bronx or somewhere where all the businesses were very close to each other, and geographically they were all kind of divided up into blocks. And the gangster would go in and say, "You should give me some money and make sure nobody burns your place down." Like, well, nobody's ever threatened to burn my place down. It's never been burned down. It's never happened. Why would I give you money? You're not an insurance company. Why would I give you money? You're not the police. Why would I give you money to make sure my place doesn't burn down? Well, you give us the money, your place doesn't burn down. You know, that's how it works. And for those who chose to not give them money, well, the place was burned down, and how ironic, no one knows who did it. No one knows who set it on fire. But that kind of, in fact, I think that's where the word racketeering comes from. That kind of racket, that kind of working together to conspire to get money from other people has been around for a long, long time. It's kind of a scam, but there are some places where I feel like there are racketeering type businesses that they're right on the border of legit, or maybe they are legit, they just have some absolutely infuriating practices. Like the person who calls himself a life coach, but there's no evidence that they've accomplished anything or been certified in anything besides being alive. I mean, they're certifiably alive, but that's about it. Or the one who calls themselves a DJ because they bought a microphone and a pair of speakers, but there's no legitimate training behind what they've done. Or the one I experienced this weekend. And this is now twice that I've encountered this industry and their behavior. And so I did a little background research on it, and it's really sad and infuriating at the same time. So my son calls me. He's taken his girlfriend to pick up her paycheck. And knowing that they charge to get in the gate at Six Flags just to park your car, because she forgot her Six Flags employee ID at home, they wouldn't let her in the front gate, and the back gate you couldn't get to because of construction. So they went to a business across the street and said to the manager, "We'll only be here for a couple of minutes. We just need to walk into Six Flags to the employee department and pick up a paycheck. Is it okay if we park here? And the manager of the place of business said, it's not a problem. I don't care if you park there. Just don't go, over there and spend the entire day taking up my parking place. Now, the time that they arrived was around 9 o'clock at night. I don't have the exact time, but it was around 9 o'clock at night. And at 9:13, the manager of that establishment, the same one who told him it's okay to park there, called a tow company who came and picked up the car and towed it away and impounded it less than a mile from where it was parked. Then proceeded to tell us that it was requested to be moved by the private property owner and that it was illegally parked without authorization. It wasn't parked in a handicap space. It wasn't parked blocking a fire hydrant. It wasn't parked in the street. It wasn't parked in the striped zone. It wasn't parked in two spaces. It wasn't parked illegally in any other way. But the fee to get the car back was $283.10, which, by the way, is the maximum allowable in the state of Texas. So what was the crime of the kid who went to pick up the $19 paycheck? Walking across the street after parking the car. Even though the manager of the establishment said it's okay, the property owner apparently did not, or the manager lied and said, yeah, go ahead and park there. I'll have it towed, but you can park there. And so it makes me wonder, now having experienced this twice in the city of Arlington, Texas, once in an apartment complex where my daughter was towed from a parking place in an apartment complex where she lived. But there's no arguing with these people. And they've been sued, you ready for this? 50 different times by 50 different people who have spent the money to hire an attorney to take them to court to go through the process. And they're so right on the line of what's right versus what's wrong, what's illegal versus illegal, that because they have a little receipt that says, someone asked me to tow this, they don't have to tell you who, they don't have to tell you when, they don't have to tell you why, but because someone requested that the vehicle be towed, they have the legitimate right to hook onto your vehicle and move it from the property. Now, I have eyewitnessed these vehicle people. I witnessed them. Because if you interrupt them in the process and move your vehicle to another space or drive away with your vehicle, they have no legal grounds. This is not a repossession. There is not a legal citation. They have only the request of someone, and in many cases, especially the apartment complexes in Arlington, it's quote-unquote a standing order. So if the apartment complex has given permission, follow me on this, given permission to a particular tow company, that if they see a vehicle in a space without a sticker, or they see a vehicle with a sticker in a visitor space, either one of those is an instant violation of the community parking rules. That's not a law. That's not an illegal thing. It's just we wish you wouldn't do that thing. In fact, if you go to the main office and say, there's a car parked in a non-visitor space that doesn't have a tag on it, they'll say, there's nothing we can do about it. If we see them, we'll ask them to move. But they have a standing order with the tow company. And that tow company has what I call scalps or scouters. And they will drive through the parking lot knowing that they have a standing order to tow cars in the wrong spot. And they will hook on. And I have watched them many, many, many times. Back up, hook onto a car, literally hook onto it just enough to move it. They don't tie it down, they don't strap it down, they don't put turn signals on it, they don't prepare the car for safe moving, nothing. They snatch it out of the parking place, they drive it across the road to another parking lot, and then take the time to hook it up properly before they tow it downtown or wherever they're impounding it to. They're literally stealing people's cars under a standing order to tow unauthorized vehicles. I've watched them, I've eyewitnessed them doing it. And apparently there are, because I've now been to two different impound lots, one for my daughter's car and one for my son's car. There are apparently a lot of them that do this. Now, the particular one I had a run-in with this weekend was A. Arlington. So if you see a white tow truck with red letters on it, and they have an entire fleet of them, and all of the drivers work for this organization, and this organization has a gigantic impound lot right there on Division, right down the street from AT&T Stadium, by the way, and their label of unauthorized parking is, if they walk into the place of business and count more people than cars or more cars than people, and no one claims the XYZ car that's out there, they will snatch onto it and leave. And sometimes they won't even wait for that. Yep, they'll snatch your car in a heartbeat. And because they've been sued so many times, they're innocuous to the threat of a lawsuit. They were innocuous all the way up to the highest level. In fact, if you look it up, there's a towing company, you can find it on Google, it's called Excalibur, who was practicing exactly the same kind of stuff. They would snatch people's cars from in front of their own houses. They would snatch people's car off the street because it was parked backwards. Again, not violations, not city code enforcement, not illegal driving or illegal parking, not drunken driving, nothing. Just you parked it in a place where they have a standing order to remove quote-unquote unauthorized vehicles. And they will snatch your car. So here's my question of legitimacy. How in the world can it be legitimate to steal someone's car just because you're in a licensed wrecker? How can it be a legitimate way of doing business? Thank you, Subway on Six Flags Road, for telling two teenagers, two young parents trying to get their world together, both of them working, both of them still in school, both of them still working jobs, both of them trying to raise a baby. And the amount of money it cost because you lied to them when you said it's okay for you to park here long enough to go get your paycheck cost more than a month's paycheck for the two of them, $283.10. If you live in the Arlington area, I ask as a friend, do not patronize the Subway at the corner of Six Flags Drive and 360. And if you do go in there, don't bother to ask if you can park there, because if you don't have a receipt from Subway or written permission from the property owner and your car gets towed, you will pay $283.10 if you get it back within 5 hours. The car was towed at 9 o'clock. They were told by 9 a.m. there would be more fees added, and then they would be paying $25 per day every day that the car stayed in impound. And if I were to go down and pay the fee but not have him with me to pick up the car, he would only have 24 hours to get it out of the impound lot before they would charge the same fee and start the same process over again. So in case you're curious about the math, we're talking about somewhere around $500 a week if your car gets snatched by these people. My friends, that's a racket. And I really suspect that between the apartment owners and the people like the manager at Subway, that there's got to be some kind of referral fee, because I know there is no way in the world that $283.10 is a legitimate cost of doing business to hook up somebody's car and drag it a mile. Just can't be so. There's no way that it costs that much money. It's a racket. It's like the protection money that you pay to keep them from burning your business down. It's like the deposit money you pay the roofer who never comes back. It's like the deposit money you pay the contractor who never finishes the job. It's like the deposit money or the contract money that you pay to a life coach who, it turns out, has more problems in their own life than you have in yours, and their ability to help you is limited. They don't have any advice for you. They don't have any insights for you. They don't understand the way business is done. They don't understand anything. On the other hand, I've had some great intelligent conversations with people who have been in the workforce for years and years and years. They never call themselves a life coach, but they make a pretty good mentor. There are a lot of ways to scam in business. There are a lot of ways to do legal business. Because, you know what, it's not illegal to be a stupid DJ. It's not illegal to be a landscaper who doesn't have a degree in horticulture or know one monkey grass from one crabgrass. It's not illegal to be a contractor with no integrity. Actually, you can be busted for some of those things, like if you take a deposit to buy product and the product never shows up, you're going to have to either give the money back or show up with the product. There's no law against being an idiot and calling yourself a life coach either. But there are ways to protect yourself against that. And like I told my son when I loaned him the money to get his car back, and I said, you're going to have to pay that back. I was not in a position, it was not in my budget. I was not planning to shell out $300 to get your car back. I have other things that I need to take care of. So you're going to have to pay that money back, and you're going to have to pay it back in a reasonable amount of time, which in my opinion is quickly. So get busy finding legitimate ways to earn money. Pick up an extra job, deliver some pizzas, mow some lawns, DJ an event, for heaven's sake. We own a DJ company. You could be doing that, picking up a couple $100 a weekend instead of hanging out with your friends playing video games. But there are ways to avoid that as well. And that is by making the right decision up front. Making the right decision would have said, you know what, I'll drive up to the gate. If they won't let us in because you don't have your employee pass, then we'll have to come back another time and get your check. Yes, it was a waste of time, it was a waste to drive, et cetera, but I would much rather waste the $4, $5, $10 worth of gas to drive here to get your check and go back to get your ID tag than to lose my car to impound and pay $300. Because in the end, the paycheck was a starter check. It was for the first day of training, so it turned out to be a $19 paycheck. Doesn't offset the time or the gas or the meal or the $283 stupid fee that we got to pay. But I still don't let the manager of Subway off the hook for lying to say you can park there and then allowing the car or requesting the car to be towed. And if I do find out somehow that there's a kickback fee or a commission fee or a referral fee for having a car unauthorized towed, I will talk about that even more, because that is just predatory. It's ridiculous. It's like predatory lending laws. There are laws against charging a certain amount of interest on something. I believe in the state of Texas, the maximum amount of interest that you can charge on someone for any kind of loan is 19%. But there are credit card companies that will charge as much as 38% if you miss a payment or you miss a fee or sign up with an introductory offer or you take cash advance and don't pay it back within 30 days, all that kind of stuff. So there's all kind of fine print manipulation of the law because the law says don't do this. I'll give you one other example of that one, and this one might blow your mind. Did you know in the state of Texas there's a law against starting school before Labor Day? There's a law. It's a state law. School for public school institutions will not start before Labor Day. That's the law. It also says in the same law that public school will not be extended beyond Memorial Day. So from Labor Day, September the 1st, through Memorial Day, May the 25th, is supposed to be the school year. But every year, every public ISD in the state of Texas files for an appeal or an exception or an override in order to be able to start 5, maybe a week. I've seen them start as early as mid-August, 2 full weeks. You have to ask yourself what's behind that. The same schools will often file for an appeal as well to say, we want to go beyond Memorial Day. We've just got too much curriculum, which is ironic because then they send them home with 8 hours worth of homework at the end of the day. It's a fascinating process to me. But you can also look this up on Google. Most people won't believe me until they look it up and then they're flabbergasted. I have people who work in the school district who say that there's no way this is true, but it's been tested, it's been proven, it's legislatively provable that most schools receive from the federal government and the state government somewhere in the neighborhood of $7,500 per student per day. $7,500 per student per day. That means if you have 10 truant students, you lose $75,000 a day. Why do you think truancy is a big business? It's kind of like the tow companies. You just get them back in here, there'll be a lot of money in it for us, and maybe something slides your way. Truancy officers are one of the highest paid employees of a school district. Look it up. Why? Because they protect the profit margin. They make sure people are in school. Again, not illegal, nothing wrong with it. There's no legitimate reason to say you can't do that. Doesn't seem scrupulous to me. Doesn't seem like the right way to do business. But is it legitimate just because it's legal? That's my question for you today. Now let me take that one step deeper for you and ask, in the way you do business, are there things that you, quote, get away with? Are there things that you do in the way that you do business, the products you sell, the services that you offer, the way you gather your money, the way you collect, that they're not illegal, but they're really not right? You know, if you look up that towing law, you will find the number of lawsuits that have been filed. Many of them have been all the way to the state Supreme Court. And the cities, they don't have an answer. The court administrators, they don't have an answer. The law doesn't really have an answer because there's really nothing illegal going on. It's just not good for the consumer. Now, there have been. In fact, it was about 2 years ago here in Dallas when the state fair was around, which the state fair is around again right now. There were people who were putting up signs on private property saying, park here for $5. They would fill the lot, collect the cash, and then leave. And then the property owner would show up and go, why are all these cars parked in my grass? Well, whoever parked them all there collected the money and left. And whoever collected the money and left was running a scam. But there were also places where they were legitimate parking lots with fees to be paid, collected by the city or the county. And people paid to park there. The fees were collected. They had their little sticker in the window. And tow companies were taking advantage of this people parking on private property thing and snatching the cars out of it. They had a line of them at one point just collecting cars out of a lot, not realizing that lot was a legitimate lot. And so there was a lawsuit and a lot of very angry people because, like I said, these guys a lot of times realize they're right there between a thief and a repo man when they hook onto your car. And if you were to see them out the window of your apartment and go down there and stop them, they don't have a legitimate reason to tow your car. They know that. And if they get in an altercation with you and the police show up, they will be forced to release your car. So they will hook onto it and drag it out of the lot, not properly connected, not properly lighted, not properly secured. Because they got to get it away far enough to be able to hook it up properly before you see them. I've watched them do this. I have cell phone video of them doing this. They're just scalpers. They were doing that in those lots. And they were picking up Range Rovers and Mercedes and doing thousands of dollars worth of damage. That particular tow company is out of business now because they got busted tearing up people's cars and then refused to pay for them. And so they had many big expensive lawsuits and it put them out of business. What they were doing was illegal. What these other guys are doing is not illegal. It's just unscrupulous, and it's horrible for the consumer. Is there something in your business you're getting away with that's unscrupulous? Something in your business that's not good for the consumer? It's legal, but it's not right. If that's the case, I'm going to challenge you in your leadership, in your integrity. What could you do in your business to have a higher level integrity and serve the consumer and not just your pocketbook? I'm J Loren Norris, and you've been watching Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.